welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the 10 books I was going to read for my summer work challenge. If you haven't checked out that video, I will link it down below. You can see kind of what I had planned to read throughout the summer, and as it went, I ended up getting to 9 of 9? 9? I got to 9 of the 10 books. 2 I didn't finish, 1 was by choice. I'm going to say a few words about each of the books, what I thought. Most of them I didn't have very strong feelings about. Very few I did, and I will talk a little bit more about those ones. And I will give my Goodreads rating on each of them, and that will be essentially what the video is. So let's get started. For the first book that I read a 3 to 5 book, and that was called Interstellar Cinderella by Deborah Underwood. So this is a retelling of Cinderella except in space. I really like space. I think it's super cool. As you'll see, I did read another spacey themed book, but essentially Cinderella is really good at fixing spaceships and gadgets and that kind of thing, and her sisters get invited to a ball. They're gonna marry the prince and like get into his favor. Her sisters end up locking her in the attic so she cannot attend the ball. Her fairy godbot comes and releases her and tells her to go to the ball, and she runs into the prince, whose spaceship has broken down. And what she does is she ends up fixing his spaceship for him. She leaves behind one of her tools, and the prince uses that tool and travels across the galaxy, I guess, in order to find the girl who fixed his spaceship. And none of these girls can fix the spaceship. Even the stepmother tries. And finally Cinderella breaks out of her confinement, fixes the spaceship, and he's like, "Will you be my bride?" And she's like, "Heck no, I'm too young. I'll be your mechanic." And I thought that was super refreshing and cute, and I ended up really thinking that it was a really lovely book. So for Interstellar Cinderella, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on my Goodreads. It was really solid. There could have been a bit more to it, but for a 3 to 5 book, it was fantastic, and the art was great. The second book that I read was a well-being book, and I read Better Than Before, Mastering the Habits of Our Everyday Lives by Gretchen Rubin. Now, this book was actually fantastic. It spoke to me on a level that I didn't really expect I would get from it. It talks about how people form habits, why we form habits, what the best ways to form habits are, and how some habits are bad and good. It's all about habits, and it was really well written. She really did her research. It wasn't full of brain behavioralism and psychology and any of that kind of stuff. It was more like, are you a morning person or a night person? She talks more about whether you are good at forming habits or participating in activities because you are obligated, you're either self-motivated, or you need kind of a combination of both, or you really just hate that pressure and will do everything against what that pressure is telling you, so you're kind of a rebel. I definitely fell under the obliger. If I'm supposed to meet someone, I will meet them because they're relying on me. One of my friends and I were talking about going rock climbing. I'm not going to go rock climbing on my own, but now that I have like 5 or 6 people that are like, "I'll go rock climbing with you, just let me know when," I'll be like, "No, you let me know when, and I will see you there." So it was really fascinating. It really talked about the best ways to form habits, kind of like all the different steps in it. It's kind of hard to explain. My other coworker, she read it as well, because I was like, "Read this, it's fantastic. It explains so much." She said it was very similar to The Power of Habit, which The Power of Habit was more about the why it occurs, whereas this one is Better Than Before, was more about applying that teaching and understanding. So if you wanted to read them both. I think I'm gonna have to pick up the other one, but definitely if you want to know how to form great habits, definitely check out Better Than Before by Gretchen Rubin. For the Goodreads rating, I gave that one 4 out of 5 stars. Alright, for the next book, I read a humor book, and I didn't really read it, I audiobooked it. My choice was Felicia Day's You're Never Weird on the Internet, Almost. So this audiobook was narrated by Felicia Day herself, and it was hysterical and eye-opening, and just I really fell in love with Felicia Day all over again. I really only was familiar with her from Supernatural. I didn't realize how accomplished she was. She's nerdy, she really has set a way for women in geekery, and she's awesome. I can't put it any other way. She is awesome. So she really talks about, it's basically her biography, from being homeschooled by her parents all the way up to creating her own web series, which is on Netflix. It's called The Guild, and kind of getting into writing and acting and following her passion. I thought it was very witty. I thought it was really witty and cute, and hearing her narrate her own biography, it just took on a whole life of its own, and I was laughing in the car while I'm driving back and forth from work, which is where I was listening to it. I don't really have a lot more to say about that one, but I did give it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, so maybe check it out. The next book I read was the Game of Thrones Volume 2 graphic novel. This carries on after the first one, and it takes place over the tournament and the capture of Tyrion Lannister by Catelyn Stark. I don't really do a lot of in-depth reviews on graphic novels or comics or manga, just because I don't read a lot of them, and because I don't really do a lot of reviews or talk about graphic novels a lot. I actually don't review any of the graphic novels or manga I read on Goodreads, so just trust me, I enjoyed it. It was good. Read it after the first one. That's all I have to really say about that one. My next book that I read was a 9 to 12 book, and that was The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen. So I read a fair amount of 9 to 12. Some of my favorite books are still 9 to 12 or middle grade series. And this one, it just kind of fell short. It's essentially about a boy who's in an orphanage, and a benefactor comes and takes him out of the orphanage to train him to be a prince, because they need a prince because the king is dying and they need someone to take the throne, but the prince is lost, no one knows where he is. So this benefactor is training 3 boys to essentially be the prince and take his place as a false prince. I thought that, I understand the character himself is quite young, but he's made some pretty bad decisions, and he's very mouthy, and it kind of really turned me off of the book altogether. I don't know why, but I ended up audiobooking the next 2 books just to finish the series, and they were on par with each other. The third one maybe brought it up a little bit, but the first 2, there's so many other 9 to 12 books that I just thought were probably a lot better than this one would have been. Apparently, I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I'd give it more of a 2.5 if I could do half stars, but that's kind of where it fell. I wanted to give it more of benefit of the doubt by giving it 3. So of the 10 books, I actually have 2 in my possession. The next book I read was Chris Hadfield's An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. So this is his biography, and this was my biography pick. I had started reading it when it came out, then I gave it to my mom for Christmas, and I finally borrowed it back from her so I could finish it. So Chris talks a lot about what it takes to become an astronaut, his passion for getting into the field, and all the hard work he put into getting to where he is today. There's some stunning photography in here from the space station, and just some of his photos, and yeah, so this was really eye-opening. There's a lot of good mentalities that he has that you could probably take and apply to your own life, such as perseverance. He has a lot of it, and it actually shows that as much hard work as he put into it, a lot of it was also just being in the right place at the right time with the right attitude. So you never know where life can take you. For Chris, it was on an extraordinary adventure into outer space. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a fantastic biography. Definitely a section I don't read a lot of, but there are some very interesting people in the biography section, and Chris is definitely one of him. As a fellow Canadian, he does make me very proud for his accomplishments and his contribution to our knowledge and of space and our Canadian pride. So there we go, Chris Hadfield. Okay, before I get on to the highlight of all the books I read this summer, I will say I did not read the customer recommendation book, which was Tiny Beautiful Things by Cheryl Strayed. I did not finish the Bible as History by Werner Keller, 2nd edition. For the last book in my summer reading challenge, I have to give a huge thank you to my coworker Ria, who recommended me this book. I was hemming and hawing about a few of my coworkers' staff picks, and 2 of them were hers. She told me to read this one over the other one, and I am so thankful that she got me to read this one. I absolutely fell in love with the story and the characters and the world, and every time it comes into the store, it's gone the next shift because everyone has to read this book. It's fantastic. Well, for the last book, I ended up reading A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, also known as Victoria Schwab, which she has on her YA books. But essentially, this book is about 4 different Londons, and our main character, Kel, he is Anatari, a blood magician, and he is able to travel between the 4 Londons. At some point in the past, people were able to travel between them before, but Black London fell and the doors were closed, so now only very special people can travel between all the different Londons. Kel lives in Red London, which thrives and uses magic. It's just their way of life. There is White London, which is power-hungry and starved by magic. The world is white, and the people that rule are very powerful, and essentially it's like Game of Thrones. You take the throne by force. So White London is ruled by 2 twins or siblings, and they are very powerful, but Kel still has to deal with them. And there is Black London, which has fallen, so just people don't go there. The Anatari do not go there. And there is Grey London, which is our London, essentially, where there is no magic in the world. People are still fascinated by it. Some might know about it, but there's no magic there. So essentially, Kel is part of the royal family. They kind of say he's their son, but he's really just working for them. He travels to the different monarchs and passes news between all 3 in order to maintain relationships, along with another Anatari, Holland, who is from White London, and he is bound by the rulers of White London to do their bidding. He is sent to Grey London to talk to the monarch, and he meets up with a girl who is a thief and an old lady. The old lady gives him a package to smuggle across, but he is chased down by someone else who wants this package, where he then runs into a thief called Delilah. She's got a lot of spunk. She grew up on the streets, so she can rough and tumble with the rest of them and defend herself, and she's very quick-witted, but she wants adventure, and oh boy, she gets it. Essentially, Kel has to bring this object to a different London, and he's being pursued throughout the entirety of it. He also has to make sure that Lila stays kind of safe. He doesn't really form too much of a relationship with her throughout most of the book, and they kind of do their own thing on their adventure, but they are both running away from whoever's pursuing them and trying to get their item to the correct London in order to stop the pursuit and to take down whoever is chasing them. I don't want to say too much more than that because, oh boy, there are some twists and turns in this novel and in this series altogether. I ended up giving this one 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. If I could give it a million out of 5, I would, but Goodreads caps me at 5. This book was fantastic. This series so far is fantastic. I'm really excited for the third book and final book to come out at the end of February, and when the second book finally comes out in paperback, I will be adding that one to my collection because I did take it out of the library in order to read the story, but I didn't want to have a paperback and then a hardcover. That's just what it is. I like my books to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible, and I jumped on this a little too late for the hardcover, but like I said, this book was absolutely fantastic. I cannot rave about it enough. I cannot sell enough of these to satisfy my urge to get everyone to read it. I actually tried to get 10 brought into our store, and they will not give us 10. They give us 1 every like 2 months. And I'm like, guys, it's here for like 48 hours maximum. Seriously, send us more books. Please just send us all of them. I'm sure you can publish more of them. It's not like I don't know why we're not getting so many of them. It's awesome. There's not enough in the city for me to give it to everyone. Heck. But anyways, this series is fantastic. I ended up picking up her latest YA book, which is The Savage Song, which I will probably talk about in another video. But for now, that's going to be it for my summer challenge wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.